want to do. Just throw out something positive to the younger kids. Don't feel like you've got to be ashamed of anything that's happening at home or in the streets.
Change can come through these programs, and I've seen it change lives.
1, 2, double jab. 1, 2, double jab.
These are socially isolated young men. This is a program about friendship. It's about connecting people. It's about supporting each other through tough times, because that's really what we're here for.
Programs like Photo Voice allow a group of veterans to work together to solve their own problems.
They said that this is the way that we do things in the military. We plan a mission, and then we do that mission together.
Guys can't go up to each other and say, you know what, man, I'm lonely. Fancy being a mate? You fancy going to the pub with me? Guys can't do that. Why? Why can't they do it? Because there's a stigma around it. There's no stigma coming here. Anybody is welcome at Pie Club.
There are so many guys in Australia that are struggling alone. They're not having conversations, they're not reaching out saying that I need help. This program with Waves of Wellness is about being able to normalise the fact that we all go through really shit times in life, so let's just have a yarn about them. And in the meantime, let's go surfing.
For a population of about 1,000, we expect 5 young people to die every year from suicide. The best way for us to heal is that we need to heal ourselves. So on the land-based program, the young men and boys, they grow up with a well-known hunter, learn how to live off the land, they learn the culture. These guys are alive.
Movember Foundation is changing the game for us.
I think the most important thing is actually the hope that this brings.
We're changing lives, we're changing attitudes, we're helping men.
Hello and welcome to Movember's first ever virtual Mo Show. I am Matt Johnson and I am absolutely delighted to be with you this evening from the corner of my kitchen. Yes, we are still in lockdown. This is where we are now. Last week was Mental Health Awareness Week, and we are using this session to tell you a little bit more about the work that Movember does within this space and how you can help others around you. So stick around and to hear from some great projects and to hear a little bit of music and some practical advice on keeping connected. It's live also. I have mentioned that. It's live, so anything can happen. So bear with us. Technology might not be on our side, but please have patience and stick around because we've got a great hour lined up for you. Now let's see how everybody is doing. How are you all coping with isolation? It's very important to kind of let people know how you feel. So I'm going to share with you right now. For me, wow, isolation, well, it's been okay at times, but it's been terrible at other times. I think every mood that I've had has been magnified, whether that's good or bad. So for somebody that likes to self-isolate, usually most of the time, I don't like parties and stuff, this on paper has been a great experience, but I cannot wait to go outside and hang out down the pub with my mates. I mean, all of my being wants to reconnect with everybody right now, and I hope you understand that. So let me know what you're thinking as well, because we have a great app called Slido, which helps you get in touch and interact with us throughout this this conversation online. So what we want to know from you using the Slido app is where you are watching from first off. So let us know where you are. We want to pinpoint where you are in the nation, in the world. So keep us informed about that. So whilst you're doing that, let's talk about how we have been keeping connected during this time. So I'm sure you're all very well accustomed to the video call. I've been on so many Zoom calls and house parties, you would not believe it, and pub quizzes every single night. But it's really working out for me. So maybe you've taken this time to relax, maybe read some books, talk to your neighbours, learn a few languages, who knows? Here at Movember, we have been pushing the message that whilst you are in physical isolation, there is no reason as to why you cannot reach out to socially connect with another person. In fact, if you now know somebody in the world right now that could do with some connection and might be sitting home alone tonight, then please ask them to join now. Please send them a text and forward on this link, because we would love to hear about your thoughts and who you are. We want to start this global connection. So here we go. And we've got some answers already in. So where are we watching from? Basildon, I can see Kent, Hackney, not far from me, York, lots of London, Essex, hello Essex. Any from Wales? Nobody from Wales yet. Devon, Southampton, Brentford, Fleet. Oh, Glorious Batley, or Batley. Hello, Glorious Batley. Bishops Waltham, Corby, Isle of Skye. Oh, we've got so many coming in now. Southampton, I've said Southampton. Manchester, Liverpool, sunny Kent, Preston. This is wonderful stuff. Isle of Skye. Hello, Isle of Skye. Welcome to the Movember Sessions. It's great to see you on the Mo Show. Hertfordshire, Croydon. It keeps coming in. It's melting my heart. Thank you so much for getting in contact with us. We really appreciate it. And as well, now we want to know how you are feeling. So we now know where you are. We want to know how you're feeling. Please, right now, using the app, the Slido app, tell me how you are. I want to see it. Let's have a look. How are you feeling, everyone? Well, I take a sip of water. I just shared with you how I felt. I personally, pretty crappy. That's how I felt all week. Loving the lockdown garden. Somebody's feeling very loving, which is wonderful. Hungry, flat, helping, ready for drink, parenting, garden, schooling, dulcet. Is that my dulcet tones? Am I too loud? Down in the dumps. I hear you. I hear you. This week has been a really interesting week for me. I'm an ambassador for Movember, and I also do lots of work within the mental health world too. And I have been in a grump this week. I've not felt too well personally, physically, and I have just hit a bit of a rock this week. And I've definitely relied on my friends and checking in with my friends. My poor girlfriends heard me check in with everybody, but it's definitely something I cling on to. We've got people intrigued. We've got weather. So these are words that are describing how people feel. Nothing to look forward to. Wow. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Intrigued. To be fair, really good. Brilliant. It's okay to feel good. Heart-warmed. Fantastic. So that's wonderful stuff. Thank you so much for getting in touch with us. We really, really appreciate it. Now it's great to have many of you here with us tonight. And now in Scotland, this is alarming. Men are 3 times more likely to die from suicide than women. Now, the Changing Room is a Movember-funded project that brings men together to open up and talk. Now, let's go to our field correspondent. I'm very excited about this. Sarah Coughlin. Sarah, good evening. How are you? Can you hear me?
I am good. Thank you, Matt. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I, unlike you, am not someone who enjoys lockdown because I'm a self-confessed extrovert. So I like being around people. And every evening I'm used to seeing all your lovely faces and getting energy off that. So bear with me. Looking at my own face is not my favorite thing. And obviously I've got some serious root growth going on from no hairdresser's appointment. So this is the real me. This is what I look like. And I'm happy to share it with you all. Thanks, Matt. I think we're going to have do we have a video or do we go straight to the panel here? I'm wondering. We've got a video, is what I'm being told in my super duper headphones from the wonderful helper I have. So we're going to show you a quick video of what's going on at the changing rooms in Scotland. As Matt pointed out, suicide statistics are alarmingly high for men in Scotland, as they are for men all across the UK and indeed the world. And it's one of the issues here at Movember that we're particularly passionate about having an impact on. So I'll flip to the video and I'll come back to you.
The Change Room is a 2-year pilot project funded by the Movember Foundation. It's run by SAMH, the Scottish Association for Mental Health, in partnership with the SPFL Trust and Hibs Football Club. It's about bringing guys together. We're providing spaces where they can have banter, have a laugh, but also be open and address any mental health issues or challenges they may be facing.
I get involved in the Changing Room because for years I suffered with mental health illness, and when I heard about the Changing Room here at the stadium, I wanted to get involved. I wanted to share that experience with the men, and I volunteered to come and do a session telling them about my experience, and any time I've been in here doing it, it has been motivational for me as well in my continuing battle with mental health illness, to see the men respond so well to my story and what I've been through.
Changing Room isn't just for those that have had mental health issues or difficulties. It's something that is open to all guys aged 30 to 64. We recognise that we all have mental health, and so we all have a responsibility to look after it. And what better place if you're a football fan than in the football stadium environment. It's a community area that thousands of people come to every week, and we recognise that it's got a reach that can go much further than just 90 minutes on a Saturday afternoon.
Well, that gives you a quick snapshot. I think we're going to welcome to screen, we would normally welcome to stage, the wonderful Robert, and he's brought a Robert with him, which just makes the evening all the better for it. We've got Robert Nesbitt with us. So this project was, I've had the privilege of watching this project grow from infancy as an idea on a piece of paper, on a page, to now be successfully funded for another 3 years, which is super exciting, and we're welcome to have you on board. For those of you joining us, I'm sure many of you have contributed over the years with your faces, with your moustaches, and with your funds. And this is the type of work that we believe is so important on a community level, to have that upstream intervention in improving and helping men's mental and physical health. We know that men love sport, so talk to us a little bit more about that. Robert has an impressive background in mental health, working with the Scottish Mental Health Association. And the other Robert makes my job really easy. There's just Roberts all around tonight. The other Robert famously sent a text that meant the world to us, and really brings into life, a tweet, brings to life the impact a project like this can have. So thank you guys for joining us tonight. And if you were here, I would obviously give you a hug and welcome you to the stage.
It's lovely to be here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
So Robert, you first. They're going to have to guess who I'm pointing to. Tell us a little bit about what the ethos, the kind of vibe, I guess, of what's going on with the changing rooms and why it's been so successful.
I think, so the changing room is about the power of football. Football is our national sport. And we recognise that the power of football, particularly around men, to bring men together in an environment that they love, whether it be Hearts, or as Robert Allen here is a big Hearts fan, or whether it be Hibs football stadium that we're coming to, where we're bringing men to learn more about mental health, learn more about talking about mental health and ways that we can look after our mental health. And actually, it's been creating that environment that has enabled a lot of men to actually feel that they can come forward, like Stuart said in the video, being able to come forward and actually share and talk about your story, but not just about looking over your own mental health, but actually being able to give back and share. So Robert Allen with us went through the programme, but he's also one of our volunteers and supports other men to get connected and open up about their mental health and wellbeing.
I think you've tapped on into something there that's so important, which is we often hear rhetoric around men not talking, but the truth is men are only too happy and willing and able to talk when the environment is one that really opens them up. And I think, Robert Allen, to go to you and to have you just talk a little bit about the tweet that you sent. I think we're going to put the tweet on screen first, and feel free to, while you're here in person with us.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very passionate about the changing room because I've written that tweet that I believe that the changing room saved my life, and I don't say that lightly. I believe in my heart that is true. I've suffered on and off with low mood and depression for a long time, but partway through 2018, it started to become really toxic. Really a toxic self-loathing that basically culminated at the end of 2019 and moving into 2019, where I was on the verge of a suicide attempt. I kind of come to the conclusion that the only way to stop the way I was feeling was to take my own life. And right at the very last minute, I thought about my wife and I thought about my son. And I knew that at that point that I'd hit rock bottom and I had to do something about it, go and try and get help. So I went and see my doctor. and we discussed the type of things that I might need to look to do to try and, take myself out of the isolation that I'd found myself in, to try and get myself better. And I'm a Hearts fan, and I follow Hearts on the different social media platforms as my season ticket holder. But I had been aware, because I'd seen about it on their channels, that they were running a project called The Changing Room. But up until then, I'd never really thought that it was for me. But at this time, with the way I was feeling, I was looking on Twitter one day, and they were looking for men to start on their new 12-week program. It just really spoke to me. I just thought, that I need to do something proactive. This could be the thing to try and get me back where I wanted to be. And it changed my life. Literally, it changed my life. From the very first moment of going in there, obviously you're in an environment where we're all Hearts fans. So, there's the icebreaker right away. We can talk about how bad the team's been and what have you. But we got the conversation going, and we all started to speak to each other. And of course, we all knew why we were there. We knew what advert we responded to. So as the conversation started, it was a real awakening moment for me to try and, as I was sharing my story and talking about things that I hadn't talked about for so long, and feelings and emotions that I'd never really verbalised, because I felt that I would be judged if I did, but I wasn't being judged, and that made me want to open up more. And then we all went round the table, and people started opening up to me. And so that kind of went on. Week 3, I had a real sort of eureka moment. I was going, travelling into the changing room, that group, and I felt a real enthusiasm. I wanted to get there and speak to the people that I've been speaking to. And then it suddenly realised to me that, as well as providing a sounding board for me to talk to, I was also fulfilling that role for someone else who would go along and want to talk, and I would listen to them and not judge them. And so that really helped with my self-worth. It really made a massive difference to me. Week 5 came along, and some medical issues that I'd had that had been getting dealt with. I went to the doctor, and I was actually told that I had kidney cancer. I had no idea that I'd been suffering from cancer. If I'd known that I had kidney cancer 6, 7, 8 weeks before, when I tried to take my own life, I've no doubt in my mind that I would have gone through with it. That little thing that was in my head that stopped me going through with it, I think that I was really unbalanced there, and I think that made me go through with it. Why even bother? You're going to die anyway. But when I got that news, 3 weeks later, I was in for major surgery. I had a kidney removed to try and fight the cancer. But I felt really strong and powerful. I felt like, this is something that I can beat, really resilient. I thought back to the conversations I'd had in the changing room. I know that the place that I was in mentally in my head at that time is what saved my life. One of the first conversations that I had when I came out of my doctor's office was, with the guy who was running the group, to say, look, I'm not going to be back. I'm on the surgeon's table on Monday. But don't worry, because when I'm better, I'll be coming back and I'll start again. And I did. And I just thank my lucky stars every day. I don't know why. The reason the tweet was so important for me was because when I think about the opportunities it gives to other fathers and husbands and other men, and just in general, this type of group, to take them back for that precipice, I'm so lucky, and it means so much to me that this thing can keep going, to hopefully give that back to other people who might need the same kind of intervention.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for telling that story with such honesty and vulnerability, and sharing with such big heart. I think for Robert Nesbitt, I know that's why he does what he does. And I also know that's why the people joining us tonight from around the UK and maybe the world, this is what fuels Movember, this commitment to making a difference. Every life, your life matters, and that's what we're all here to kind of rally around. So I really appreciate you opening up on a Thursday night, on a funny screen to ourselves, and sharing that story. Because I think the other thing here is, you're not alone when you feel like that. We all men go through moments in life that are hard to overcome, and you were brave enough to take action and do something about it in that moment for your own sake. So thank you. And I guess the other thing to point to, back to Robert Nesbitt here, is the impact of this program. When we started this project, it was a pilot. There was a small amount of money on the table to see which of these projects across the UK, and they're varied and really unique, and you and I have had the privilege of seeing the impact of many of them. The ability to fund this type of work through pilot, to prove it up, is an absolute, treasure of mine and yours, Robert, to say now that your project's proven itself of worth, of value, of impact, and now get that additional 3 years funding for Movember to be in a position to provide that funding and for you to now scale the project. So maybe just speak really quickly, because I think we're going to get pushed back to Matt in a sec, but to how exciting that is as we go into the future.
It's hugely exciting. It's hugely exciting when you have a pilot that you believe the work that you're going to do, and you believe that you can make a difference in people's lives and men's life. And to do that pilot and see the results that it has, Robert is a tremendous advocate for us. Robert's one of many men who have went through the programme that have had similar experiences that's really opened doors for them to look after their mental health. So to be funded by Movember and have a very successful pilot, and then to see when you put all that work in to get a further 3-year funding, that we can actually scale up, and we are going to scale this across Scotland, across football clubs in Scotland, because there's other men like Robert, and we can make a real difference. And that is because of the partnership that we have with Movember, and the ability to take all the learning that we have, everything that's been shaped by Robert and the other guys that come along, is hugely beneficial. And we are hugely grateful for Movember for being part of that journey, not just funding us, but helping us to work through and develop where we're going. And that is the big difference.
Thank you very much. The other thing I kind of wanted to say before we close out is we're so happy that you're with us, Robert. So thank you for taking that first step and fighting hard. It's not an easy road. And I know some people used language tonight around not feeling so great. And this is a particularly difficult time for so many men with so many challenges, and women in front of us. So you are living proof of the fact that it is worth fighting and giving back, and that reciprocity and feeling like you're part of something and you have purpose and connection. We know that's one of the greatest predictors of a happy, healthy, long life. So thank you both very much for joining us. I believe we're going back to Matt, who's going to have us clap for the NHS carers. So thank you so much, guys.
Wow, Sarah, Robert, that was an incredible conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you for your honesty. That's going to help so many people. And now, like most people at this time, everybody needs a little extra support, don't they? And we'll be taking a short break so you can show your appreciation and clap for our carers right now, after which Jack Cullen, our musical Mobro, will be singing live. So you've got to clap hard and clap as loud as you possibly can. Make this one a large one. See you shortly.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're all well, fit and healthy, and you've clapped nice and loudly. My name's Jack Cullen, and I'm gonna sing you a little song. I released this song through Movember with their campaign called Mo Sounds a few months ago, and I want to thank them very much for having me on tonight. It's an absolute pleasure. It is amazing what they do, and I'm very, very grateful to be part of this tonight. So thank you very much. This song is called Shed a Little Light by a guy called Foy Vance. They say that love is hard to find. I sure found it hard to find mine. And love walked right up to my face. She said you can only love what you'll die for, babe. Shed a little light so I can find you. Don't let darkness hide from my face. Shed a little light so I can find you. Will I surely die for your embrace? Ooh, ooh, ooh. They say the second love reveals trouble is hard on his heels. Then the won't try to stood by my side and said, if it's love or death, baby, no need to decide. Shed a little light so I can find you. Don't let darkness hide from my face. Shed a little light so I can find you. Will I surely die for your embrace? Shed a little light so I can find you. Don't let darkness hide you from my face. Shed a little light so I can find you. Will I surely die for your embrace? Ooh, 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 ooh. Sweet. That's all good. That's all good. Bit of trouble there. Thank you very much for having me, guys. It's a charity close to me. I suppose the closest thing I have to it is my brother and my best friend cycled from London to Japan over last year, which took them about 6 months or so. They did it for Movember. I've only got small little legs, so I thought that was going to be a bit too hard for me. But I thought I'd release a song instead. So that was that.
Oh, Jack, thank you so much for filling for me there. Nobody could hear me.
No worries, mate. I saved you there.
You saved me. Thank you so much for your performance as well, Jack. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. Thank you very much, Matt. Cheers.
Take it easy. Now, we all have a friend we want to reach out to. Now, earlier this year, I had the pleasure of catching up with Love Island's Jack Fincham as part of my Movembers in the Barber Chair series. Now, simply taking the time to talk, and it can make a heck of a lot of difference to somebody's mental health. Now, here's a snippet of that conversation.
The reality is for me, and I do a lot of stuff about mental health, and we look at men and where men are, and it's changing, it's always evolving and all that type of stuff. It usually comes down to your perception of what vulnerability is.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't okay to be vulnerable.
I think, look, with mental health and stuff, I used to take antidepressants when I was like 19, 20. I used to, I had like such bad anxiety, so I used to take citalopram and beta blockers and stuff as well. But at the start, when this first happened, I was sort of scared. I didn't know what to do, and I was just like, "Mum, it's just an all-round panic." Mm-hmm. And even then, I was a bit embarrassed to say, but why I wasn't going to work.
Really?
So obviously, I had obviously some time off work, but I didn't want to tell everyone in the office. Actually, because it was an office full of salespeople, so I thought, But I didn't want to turn around and go, oh, I'm feeling a bit like this. So I think from that experience, I now will always openly talk about it. And do you know what as well? I've learnt now, sometimes I'll just say to my mates and people, especially the ones that are all loud and stuff, like, I'll be like, how are you? I'll just ask them in general, how are you? How you feeling? And sometimes they'll go, do you know what? And then they'll have something on their mind. I just think that's an important thing, just to check in with people.
Yeah, check.
Do you know what I mean? Just go, actually, how are you feeling?
Things, yeah.
Well, not mate, it hasn't got to be all weird, like, so how are you feeling? Do you know what I mean? But
so at that time, what made you first kind of inquire about your own mental health? What was your first step?
Well, it was my mum, and I said, Mum, I said, look, this is how I'm feeling, and it's not right. And obviously, I was scared.
What were you feeling?
Just this fear of just something awful was going to happen constantly, like literally, like constantly, like it wouldn't go.
Yes.
I'd go to bed thinking it, wake up feeling, and then in the end and then that's what brought the depression on with it, because where I was feeling so like that, I thought, when am I going to feel my normal again?
Yes.
And then that's what made me feel depressed. It was like a cycle. Then I went to the doctors and stuff, I spoke to somebody, then they prescribed me obviously antidepressant. But then what happened was, when they prescribed it, they said that it actually can make you feel worse for a bit before you feel better. So that panicked me even more. Do you know what I mean?
That
So
is
it was because I was already in that cycle of feeling sort of panicked. I just thought, oh no, not this, please, no, not this. But
Did it work? Did the tablets work? Did the process work?
But then I just thought I need to take control of my brain again. Do you know what I mean? Because I had this thing where I'd say to myself, you know, it's your brain making you feel like this, so you can make it feel better again, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's why I kind of kept telling myself that every day. And then I felt, I started to feel a lot better. It took me like a good couple of years to get back on track where I could go. Yeah, it's not. I think people think that like you can just feel like that and then someone will give you a magic tablet. It doesn't work like that. You still got to work with them. They're like a crutch.
Right then, now I'd like to invite Mo Bro, James Martin, to join us. James, are you there?
I am. Yep. Hi there, Matt.
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going to have to mention, though, that is a wicked change of hairstyle you've got now.
Lockdown hasn't been kind to me, James, okay?
Me neither.
I've gone through many different shades of haircut. I wanted to talk to you about why you became an ambassador for Movember.
Yeah, I'd been a Mobro for 8 years. Last year is my year, and I'd been doing it through work, and had met with a couple of people from Movember, Rachel and Alex, and they both mentioned about the possibility of becoming a Movember ambassador, a community ambassador, and it was like, oh, jump at that chance, because I knew that what we'd done at work, you could make a massive impact to people. You could really help to change your message, and possibly able to take that even further was something that, for someone that's been there, for someone like Robert, who'd been on the brink of suicide, I know what difference it can make when you have that someone that says, it's not just you, it can be anyone. And I think being able to be in a position where I might make a difference to one person was something I couldn't turn down.
No, it's an incredible thing that I've taken on in the last 6 months or so. And I have to say, dealing with Movember over the last few years by growing a Mo and being part of their social events, and especially as an ambassador now, it's an incredible organisation. And you hit the nail on the head there. And we've been talking about lockdown and mental health a lot recently as well. So how has your mental health been during lockdown?
Well, I'm not afraid to admit it's been pretty crappy. This, as someone, you said you're a sort of that naturally, you don't like going to parties, you're not, that's me all over. I'm much more comfortable in my own skin, in my own space. And at the beginning of this, I was thinking, yeah, this is tailor-made for me. Social anxiety out the window, don't have to meet people. But it's been a huge challenge. And part of that is, not being able to see people, not being able to contact people, and having to do things on apps like this or Zoom, and having to do that on a media that I'm really not that comfortable in. So that was at the very start of it, and actually doing homeworking. Well, the situation really got worse for me because home working turned into being furloughed, and that's turned into being put on redundancy consultation. And I was already feeling pretty low coming out of winter, which is a fairly natural cycle for me. But, now I just faced these situations that I had no control over, and I felt myself going back to the situation I was a decade ago. I was suicidal when, were it not for fortune and fate, I wouldn't be here. And the one thing that's been hugely different, there's a couple of things actually. Those people who know me, I've been running and I've been running a lot. And, this month, 150 miles as the Miles for Mind and Miles for Mates as well for Movember. But it was the talking that's made such a difference. 10 years ago, I hid everything. Everything was tight in here. It was like a sort of real knot in my stomach. And this year, I've told people that I haven't been feeling great. And what that's enabled them to do is to reach out to me and say, how are you doing today? Sending a text, doing those little things that make such a huge difference to people in my situation. And it's such a simple thing to do, and it seems so easy. But, the Movember ambassadors, the community ambassadors, we've got a WhatsApp group and the support on that. And I'm going to give him a shout out because just before I came on, he sent me a WhatsApp to say, I hope tonight goes well. Well, I'm wearing this shirt for a guy called Matt Loynes who lost his granddad. A couple of weeks, granddad always wore Hawaiian shirts. So Matt, is for you. It's as close to Hawaii as I can get. But I think it's that type of community spirit that's really helped me pull through sort of a really, really tough time.
It's really interesting that you say that was one of your tools, connection. I've jumped at human connection during this lockdown period, and very much like you, when I was going through my awful time with depression 10 years ago, where I nearly took my own life as well, it was the lack of connection and the lack of feeling a part of something that drove me to that edge. What advice would you give to people out there that are feeling that way now, and what tools would you say they should possibly grab?
I think most importantly is give your mates a chance. Don't think that they will think that you are odd, you're weird, because you're not, because we well know that so many men go through this, and so many people, men and women, go through this. There is nothing to be embarrassed about. And you'll be really surprised, I think, as the times when you go out for that help, you make that connection, that people are there and wanting to help you. They're fully backing you up. And, your conversation with Jack was talking about that vulnerableness. Well, it's not, those conversations have changed now. We're not saying people are vulnerable and it's a weakness. That vulnerability shows strength. And I think that's the biggest thing I can say is reach out to your mates, have those conversations. And if you are a mate that sees your friend in a bit of trouble, reach in and grab him. Don't wait for them to reach out to you. Reach in and grab him and ask, hey, how you doing, buddy? Let's talk about this. Let's have a proper conversation.
It's incredibly important. James, thank you so much for your time this evening. Keep up the amazing work.
Welcome.
And thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you so much. What a powerful, powerful conversation that is. If you know somebody out there that is struggling, or if you feel like they are struggling, reach out to them. Be somebody that listens to them, because being somebody that makes you feel heard is so important. We need to connect, and men, do it for your fellow brothers. It's an incredibly important thing. Now, when athletes feel mentally fit, they can play better. Ahead of the game teaches young athletes how to talk about mental health, to get help when needed, and to overcome life's challenges. Watch this.
So Movember's Ahead of the Game is a mental fitness programme. It's aimed at young athletes, parents and coaches, and it's delivered within community sport. For the Rugby League World Cup project, we will be delivering the programme to Rugby League community clubs in the host cities, and we aim to deliver the programme to 8,000 young athletes, 8,000 parents and 360 coaches. The athletes will come to the community club, they'll do their training, and then we'll get them all in the changing room or the clubhouse. The workshop is run by one of our facilitators. They will go through a number of areas, understanding mental fitness, signs and symptoms of mental health conditions, where to seek help, and really importantly, how to help each other and have conversations about mental health and mental fitness.
So it's back to me, and I am going to introduce you to the fabulous Hunter Paul. We've just seen that video with the very talented Tracy Hurt, who's heading up that project with Rugby League. Robbie Hunter Paul, for those of you that don't know, is a very talented and well-respected rugby league player throughout his career as both a New Zealand national and then playing with the Bradford Bulls. So welcome to our little chat this evening, Robbie.
Hey, Sarah, thanks for having me.
I think I was just reflecting actually on the past conversations, and I know you and I have got some questions to sort of run through, but that idea of young people understanding the value of connection really early in life is really what Ahead of the Game's about, isn't it? It's about understanding that life will throw you some curveballs, you're not always going to feel great, but actually it's really normal to not feel normal sometimes, and it's really normal to not be okay and be able to say that. So I wondered if you could speak a little bit to your own experience of that as a young player and also as an ambassador for the Head of the Game program as we head into the Rugby League World Cup.
Yeah, well, look, what can you say about sport ahead of the game? It's a collective, isn't it? It's every team, and I can only speak from a team sport perspective because that's what I've done since the age of 4 years of age. So I'm 44 now. I started playing rugby league when I was 4, and I still, even now, like earlier this year in January, I turned out for an exhibition game for a Super League match earlier this year, and at 44 years of age. I shouldn't have done it. I'm too old for that sort of carry on. But one thing it is, it's a collective, it's a community. It's a micro community that you're in. You're in and around your brothers, you're in and around your brethren, and you, through training exercises and through the games themselves, you create that extended community, you create that support network, and it's integral to your well-being. It's one of the, we learn a lot of things through sport. We learn discipline, we learn how to communicate to groups, we learn how to communicate to one another. So I think it's really important that this Ahead of the Game is probably such a powerful vehicle. We've heard of a couple of other powerful vehicles. We've got changing rooms that's obviously been implemented through sport up in Scotland, in rugby league across the north of England, and through the wider reaches of the game. They have the offload program through Rugby League Tears, who I'm an ambassador for, and through them, obviously, to support Movember as well. So yeah, look, sport is it is a great vehicle for that. And as we know, and it's been discussed earlier, the ages of 20 to 49, the fact that more young men are taking their lives than any other cause. I mean, that statistic is abhorrent. It's horrible. It's a horrible statistic. But the data tells us, and we know that actually a lot of the issues and the harm starts during adolescence. And that's the point of the Ahead of the Game for the League World Cup 2021, is that we're gonna target 8,000 young people and their parents and help upskill them in their mental health. We already do it physically, and we all know that the strongest, most important organ in our bodies are our brain. And look, if at the moment we can't get it into the national curriculum, then it's bodies like Movember, it's bodies like Rugby League Cares, and vehicles like the Rugby League World Cup is such an international sport. Those are the vehicles in which we can make the biggest type of impact that can resonate throughout the world.
I couldn't agree more. I'm being reminded through my headphones that if anyone would like to ask Robbie, myself, or any of the other guests tonight questions, please use the Slido app that you guys have got access to throw those questions through, and I will endeavour to get them answered as we run through the chat. I think for those of you on the call that don't know me, I was actually also born in New Zealand, although I don't say socks and seven as frequently as Robbie does. And rugby league is a sport that resonates in so many countries, and we see, a program like Ahead of the Game, which Movember has now funded through its initial infancy as a research project, proven in one code, and then adapted to codes all around the world. So for those of you that aren't familiar with it, we started with rugby league and rugby union in Australia, with got a version of it in Canada, working with hockey, called Breaking the Ice. We're now in partnership with Rugby League here in the UK and some rugby union teams, rugby union in Australia, in New Zealand, and then cricket as well. So I think what we're acknowledging is we need to go to where men are. What we see in some of those statistics, Robbie, often is, the number one way for a man in this country to die, aged 20 to 45, as you said, is suicide. And so worryingly, less than a third of those men have accessed any mental health services. So we've got this really big gap between men showing up and taking action and getting the right services at the time that they need them. And so we believe you need to go to where men are, and that's what this project is all about. And it's also really true that not all men are engaged with sport. So I thought you could speak a little bit to your own experience of things outside of sport that also help you with your mental fitness.
Okay, no problem. More than welcome. More than happy to discuss that and talk on that. Like a lot of people, I will go through testing times in my life, and that happened for me in 2016. I had someone very close to me pass away. Things professionally just weren't going very well. We had with my youngest daughter, Emily, and I was the person that passed away was the children. I was the mother of my oldest two children. So both my kids in my house, mourning the impending passing because she died of cancer. So she impending passing, and then mourning their mum when they died. And I'm trying to be that rock for all of my children and my wife, who's just had a baby, and her hormones are going all over the place. And then I was CEO at a professional sports club that couldn't pay the wages, and for whatever reason, there wasn't enough money in the coffers to actually get out there and pay everybody everything. So this all happened in the space of 4 weeks. So for someone who I've actively thought was very resilient, I could feel myself. I didn't actually. I couldn't feel myself coming apart at the seams. People around me did. So I was pulled aside. I had enough sort of intelligence to listen to them, and I went on a journey. So through counselling and then through training through Rugby League Cares, I became a mental health first aider, did suicide prevention courses and a host of other sort of mental fitness courses, and educated myself, gave myself a toolkit. So now I guess I'm a person that lives and breathes the 5 ways to well-being. And that is effectively what I do. Obviously, playing rugby since I was 4 years of age, exercise is a huge part of what I do. But also, quite interestingly, before the pandemic hit, well, when it was still just a small thing in January, because I'm at that age of 45, I thought I'd reach out to my friends back in New Zealand, guys that I really haven't had much interaction, but the guys I grew up with, my brothers, reach out to them and ask them if they would do 3 months of alcohol free. I'm actually in 6 months of doing it. But I just thought what I wanted to do was get them to live a little bit like me and live the best version of themselves. So basically I said, look, let's go alcohol free. Let's share training programs with one another, exercise programs, let's get as fit as we can possibly. Let's share nutritional plans, so the best salads, and challenge each other. Then we also, over the course of the 3 months, we put in little challenges, exercise challenges, which we did. So we had little goals interspersed. And then also what I would add a real positive graphic into our little chat group. So every day we were looking at something positive. You know, social media timelines can become very, very negative. Well, every day in that group, there was a positive graphic, a visual graphic that was uplifting. So that was the way I was staying connected and reconnecting with people that were very close to me. I'm a part over the past 4 years, I've given myself over to be a part of something much bigger than myself, much bigger than the sport, and that is mental health and well-being. And through Rugby League Cares, I was able to be an ambassador for Movember, able to champion the head of the game cause through the Rugby League World Cup 2021, and empower myself. Really, I learned in 2016 that it's not about being weak; it's about remaining strong. And that's what I wanted to just have the tools to get as strong as possible, so I can deal with what life throws at. Like in the game, in this sport, you get blindsided. Curveballs come at you, and that's what life's like. The better toolkit that we have, the better, more resilient that we can become. I meditate a lot. I've got my meditation beads on, and I meditate. I have 2 solid meditations per day, and I've integrated them into my habits, so they're part of my habits now. I wake up and the first thing I do is a 20-minute meditation. I put my kids to bed, and the first thing I do after that is I have another 20-minute meditation. And I may meditate throughout the day. And the final one, the one that's really grabbed me, is I learn. I've given myself over to a lifetime of learning, and not so much so professional. I thought, I'll keep learning more stuff about digital marketing because that's what I do as a profession. Then I realized actually that's just like I'm still on. I'm always on at work. It's like I've never given myself a rest. So I realized it had to be food for my soul. It had to be something that fed my soul. And what feeds your soul? Music. Now, I thought I would learn how to play the guitar. In my Google searches for learning how to play the guitar, they said the ukulele was easier because it's only 4 strings. So I can proudly say I can now play 2 Bob Marley songs absolutely terribly. Terrible. So
I love it.
Obviously, listening to Jack earlier, he's absolutely, it was gold. And I was like, I'm not worthy. And I can't sing either. So I'm going to be the person that's, strumming the ukulele and just humming along. But you look, again,
Thanks,
just giving myself over to those 5 ways.
So that's a fabulous examples there of things that everybody can think about increasing and adding to their lives. We've got a question from the audience, which is always lovely. As a sports person, you often have to act tough. Obviously, as a Kiwi rugby league player and then a player in the northeast of England, how hard was it for you to first talk about these kind of big and vulnerable issues?
As hard as it was for anyone else. You put on a jacket. I'm also half Māori, and I'm Indigenous people of New Zealand. The Māori people, the Pacific Island, those ethnic minorities from down under, they're also quite hyper-masculine communities as well, and actually equally have huge suicide rates. So, like most people, like most people that I speak to, suicide has impacted their lives. It's impacted mine. One of my best friends took his life when I was in, I think, the 3rd year of my career here in England. So half a world away, one of my best friends takes his life. And you always think, you start blaming yourself. I should have been back in New Zealand. I should have been reaching out and calling him more. And and family members also. Family members have also, I've had male family members that have taken their life. So I was educated enough, smart enough to know that actually, if as a role model, my job is to show that as a hyper-masculine sport that we play, and as a leader in that hyper-masculine sport, we are also human. And if I can get the message across that it's not about being weak, it's about remaining strong, and that importantly, your lot in life isn't it. Just like exercising, to make yourself get more skills and tools to make yourself a stronger person. Physically, you can do the same thing psychologically, mentally. There are tools that can help you do exactly that, which is why I live the 5 ways to well-being. They are integrated. So there's not something I do as well as, it's something that I am, something who I am. For those, because I noticed that word cloud, there were a few people saying they're struggling,
Yeah.
Follow the pathways. Go on Movember's site. There's loads of resources there to help you start your journey today. Join those groups. Namaste. All power to you.
Thank you so much, Robbie, for sharing so much of yourself with us. I'm conscious of the red number at the bottom of the screen, which is telling me we're out of time. So I'm throwing back to Matt in his kitchen and hoping that his hair's still looking good. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh, well, I absolutely could listen to you, Robbie, all evening. Such a wonderful thing to hear. A man of such stature and sporting ability speak so honestly and so humbly and so vulnerably about life and what it is to be a modern man. And I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, brother. I really appreciate that. And thank you to everyone that has joined me here this evening. Thank you to Sarah. You've been wonderful, wonderful co-host this evening. Robert from Changing Rooms, Jack Cullen, James Martin, and of course, Robbie Hunter-Paul, as you just heard from then. And thank you for everybody that's watched and has contributed towards our show this evening. Now, please remember to keep connected in these times. Now, to finish up, here's a reminder as to why we are all here and what to look forward to later this year. I've been Matt Johnson. Goodbye.
Oh, sorry, bro. Rookie error, man. But how's things, man?
I don't know, man. I feel like I'm just dropping the ball a bit, at work and as a dad.
It's not easy. What's got you worried?
So for those of you who are still with us, that tool is the latest product that we have released in light of where we find ourselves in the midst of people being physically distanced but actually connected and worrying about men, frankly, in their lives and not knowing quite how to reach out to them. So we did some research around the world for the last couple of weeks, and it unpacked some really interesting things, one of which was that 48% of men in this country had not been asked how they were doing at this time. And that's a really significant statistic when we think about over 2/3 of those same men, when asked, said how valuable it would have been to have been asked. So I think that to me really holds true in so much of our work. We know that men need that nudge. They may, need that environment to open up, and they're looking to gain, and that there is real benefit in those moments. So for those of us around men, there's a real onus on us to make effort. And I think James said it really well before, to reach in and grab him, get hold of that guy that you're worried about. And I know we are worried about people in our lives, not necessarily just men either. This tool will equip you for having some of those conversations regardless of gender. It's just that it's been designed with that lens. So when we think about having those conversations, I know we can be scared. Often we can feel good, a bit anxious. Frankly, it's not something we're all comfortable with, asking someone who they are, how they're doing, and knowing that the answer might be, actually, I'm not doing very well, and wanting to get that answer right from there. So I think we're going to go to a quick video and show you what the tool is designed to do. So that gives you a little snippet of what the tool does. I guess we're keen to understand, using your Slido tool again, I'm looking for word bubbles on the screen, yes or no answers. Do you know men in your lives that you might be a bit concerned about, that you'd like to reach out to? So you can answer that question as I chat amongst myself. As to the kind of benefit of something like this. So I think we often focus on men in a lot of our communication as to how to solve some of these problems when it comes to men's health in this upstream and early intervention place. But really it's on all of us as well to be able to have that other side to the conversation, to be able to ask, to be able to actively listen, to be able to encourage action and to check in. And I think the gift of listening is probably one of the greatest gifts you can give. And what this tool does, nice to see 100% of people know a man that they could ask how he's doing. The gift of being able to listen effectively is really silence. It's not about solving that problem for a man. It's about being able to acknowledge what's going on, to empathise, to share your own vulnerabilities in that moment, and build that rapport and relationship with each other. So I know we see that often in many conversations, and we also know that people are not asking men how they're doing often because they're fearful of getting that wrong. And the reality is you can't get that wrong. There aren't that many watch-outs. There are a few, and that's what the tool is designed to kind of help you, guide you through. So it's been built with 3 real scenarios around a guy who might have lost his job, and we just heard James talk really openly about that experience of going from working from home to furlough to redundancy conversations, and I think we all know here in the UK that there's going to be a lot more of that in the coming months and years ahead. So there's a scenario there for a friend you might be worried about that's lost their job and how to handle that conversation. There's a scenario there for a friend who might be having a really difficult time in their relationship. We know relationship breakdowns are one of the more difficult and triggering points in a man's life, and being in lockdown is probably going to exacerbate some of that. So there's some conversations, some tricks and tips as to how to help you navigate that. And then I've completely mind blanked on what the third scenario is. It'll come back to me in a second. Oh, family pressure. And I think we know a lot of guys out there are feeling this family pressure, whether it be teaching your kids at 3 and 4 how to begin school, or in my case, how to keep teenagers the least bit engaged with education when they've kind of been left in this limbo state of there are no GCEs this year and I haven't started my A-levels. So what is that like? That's a high pressure environment for a lot of parents right now. And so that's the third scenario of what's on offer there. I guess why we're sharing this with you is because you are some of our most passionate and beloved members of the community. We'd love to hear from you as to how you find the tool. What do you think about it? Do you think there are some scenarios that would also be really beneficial? These 3 scenarios were built off real conversations. We gathered this through research and qual and quant and understanding what was going on for men. So we're keen to build more scenarios that are relevant and really helpful for you to help navigate your way through the coming months and years ahead in helping the men in your life. I guess that's it from me. This is probably the oddest Mo session I've done and Mo event I've done in the 15 years I've been with Movember, but I hope it has been engaging, entertaining, informative, or it's just made you laugh at the attempt. I look forward to seeing you all really, really soon, because I much prefer to see you in person, as I'm sure all of you do, and wish you all the very best. So I'm handing back to Matt.
Yeah, I'm not going to go anywhere. I feel like I left a little bit too early then. Sarah, can I come back to you, please? I've just ask you a few questions. Is that okay?
You can. I'll quickly put my glass out of the way, yeah.
Sarah, I just got to say, like, what an inspiring conversation you had with Robbie, Paul, and just this evening has been so heartwarming for me. Do you have any highlights so far?
Oh, look, I think every story I hear is a highlight in that it constantly reinforces this idea that the greatest protective factor we can have in our lives is the connection we have with others. And sadly, men don't have the depth and breadth of friendship they often need to protect themselves through the tough times. We're all going to have them. And these men are all brave enough and courageous enough to tell those stories with real humility and honesty. And I that always means the world to me. So thank you guys for sharing tonight. It means a lot, I'm sure, to those on the call, because the reality is you're not alone in what you're going through. Someone else somewhere has felt it before, and you're not that strange.
No, I can speak personally. In the last 4 or 5 years, when I've talked about my affiliation with mental illness and my experiences, it's really opened my eyes to how compassionate people can be when you do share and when you do open up, especially men. Men are here to listen, and there are good people out there that want to listen to you. And Sarah as well, I've got to say how incredible the Ahead of the Game campaign is with Rugby League. I've just got to say that's huge, because for that demographic, there are massive problems, aren't there?
It's so exciting. We didn't get Robbie didn't get to talk about this, but we've just been doing some research, and one of the most affected groups, without doubt, through this pandemic is going to be lower socioeconomic young men. They are going to be slipping through cracks here. So a program like this in a sport that really speaks to some of those demographics is going to be really, really, really impactful. We know that sport works, and ahead of the game is also about parents and coaches. So it's not just about kids, it's about building resilience in all of those pieces. And I think there's that, I often refer to it as health by stealth thing, which is, parents turning up and engaging with this content invariably improves their own mental health literacy and resilience themselves, and hopefully makes them more able to be open to what's going on in their kids' lives. So it also gives Kiwis a chance to maybe win another World Cup, because we really epically failed at the last one, frankly.
To be honest, I think Wales deserve the next one. We're due a World Cup, to be honest.
It's about bloody time.
Sarah, I've got to say thank you so much to you as well. The work that you do, and I know how much you care about this subject, is really important to you. So thank you very much for helping.
Thank you, Matt, for all you do for us too. Just to say, for those watching, Matt doesn't get paid to do this, and it's quite a lot of effort that goes in behind the scenes. So I really appreciate it. Neither does anybody working on this. So I really appreciate the vulnerability of everybody for opening up on a Thursday night and sharing time, and the audience for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Thank you, Sarah. You can go and have that drink now, my darling. Marvellous stuff. And again, as I said earlier, thank you so much to everybody that joined us. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Robert. And Robert from Changing Rooms. Thank you, Jack Cullen. Thank you to James Martin and Robbie Hunter-Paul as well from Head of the Game. Please remember to keep connected during these times and beyond these times too. Now, to finish up, here's a reminder as to why we're here and what to look forward to later this year. Goodbye from me, Matt Johnson.
I'm here today to talk to you about something very serious. Every November, men around the world grow moustaches to raise money for Movember. Moustaches are very powerful things. Back in the 1980s, a monkey grew a moustache, and as a result, it could complete a Rubik's Cube in under a minute.
The rock band Queen have sold 200 million records solely because Freddie Mercury had a moustache.
The name mustache comes from the old Anglo-Saxon word for virile badger. That's right. Paint that image for you.
A moustache is the most efficient way to keep the human body warm. You could be absolutely naked in the Arctic, and if you had a moustache, you would survive.
You may, of course, experience excessive shrinkage in the nether regions now.
When you shave your face, all the dead skin ends up in any food and drink within a 50-mile radius.
All soldiers were ordered to grow moustaches in the First World War because moustaches can repel bullets.
A recent survey found that men with mustaches are better in bed and more successful in life than those without them. That's where I've been going wrong.
When I was 13, the coolest kid in my school was Martin Wells because he had the faint outline of a moustache and a massive penis.
So remember, this Movember,
whatever you grow
will save a bro.
Who wrote this? Oh,